Artificial intelligence. Is this technology bringing us more benefits or more harm? Indeed, AI has contributed to the development of high-tech products such as drones and driverless cars. It can also help children with disabilities such as dyslexia with their learning. However, the rapid development of AI may result in the replacement of some existing jobs. It also raises concerns over matters such as privacy and accountability. How should we, and society in general, prepare for this inevitable trend? This executive forum features Mr. Fred Sheu, National Technology Officer at Microsoft Hong Kong. He will discuss some of the latest developments and issues related to AI, and share his thoughts on developing this technology in a responsible manner.
First of all, before I start, my topic probably is not very technical. If you're expecting some programming, AI, Python, all this kind of thing, you may get disappointed. My topic is around this book. And this book is called The Future Compute, Artificial Intelligence and its Role in Our Society. So what is this book about? By the way, just a little bit of promotion. It is free of charge. You don't have to buy it. Just scan this QR code. You can download this like an ebook, if you will. So we published this book about 2.5 years ago, and it's really addressing some perceptions. We perceive some issue about AI and also make some recommendation on what society need to do with this topic. By the way, I have pops here. I have one book. I put it aside first. So this book have two sessions in the forward. One is written by our president, Brett Smith, and the other one is written by our ex-executive VP, Harry Sum. Brett Smith is our chief legal officer as well as our president. He's not, I would say, a scientist. He studied liberal arts in college. And Dr. Harry Sum is a scientist. He's a very, very famous scientist, and he left Microsoft about a year ago. So the reason this book has a forward session written by one liberal arts and one scientist is that this topic about AI is not about scientists. It's also related to a lot of issues on this topic of AI. So technically, the book is written in 3 sessions or 3 chapters. The first one is that we talk about what the future of AI will be and give you some use cases, scenario, and what the corporate fellows have been using, practicing AI to support and transform their business to achieve their business goals. The second section of this book is about responsible AI. So actually, when we published this book about 3 years ago, nobody mentioned about this, what we call AI ethics, AI policy, and how about regulating AI. And this book's become very popular because we outline the framework, how to make AI more, I would say, ethical, if you like. The last session about jobs, right? I think I remember many years ago when I went to speak in any AI conference, the first question came up is, will AI replace my jobs? I'm going to lose my jobs to a robot and all this kind of thing. So anyway, I'll briefly go to cover these 3 sessions in that book. If you find this interesting, I strongly recommend you to download the book with this QR code. So what's AI? I mean, artificial intelligence means a lot of things to a lot of people. I'm not going to give you a definition, but what we perceive AI is something that is a machine that can perform some human intelligence work. So a lot of discussion around AI, as I mentioned, people say, will AI help cities get smarter, but sacrificing my privacy? My personal data will give away to people who collect my data and do some AI work. Could AI replace radiology? Replace my job? Like if I'm doing the radiologist job, would that technology replace me? So I lose my job. And so on and so forth. Driver's car can replace taxi driver, and AI will cause major disruption in jobs. Skin cancer classification will be handled by AI. And also Stephen Hawking, a famous scientist who passed away about a couple of years ago, he warned that AI could end mankind. However, Stephen Hawking, almost half his life relied on AI to communicate with his audience when he went out to communicate or speak in conference. process. So AI has been around for a long time. As I mentioned, probably the first time I talked about AI is more than 5-6 years ago in Hong Kong. But the technology itself, when I went to university many decades ago, we talked about AI in our class. So the Turing test was in 1950, a reasoning robot invented in 1969, GUI 1981, and also the actual driverless car. The first one, you see driverless cars still not in the market, but the first, I remember, is Mercedes that invented a driverless car in 1994 in the Mirror campus site. So the technology been around for quite a long time. But why in last decade or a few years, everybody talk about that? I think it's because of free development in the market. One is like all AI needs is a lot of data. When the industry, the market, organization, even government are willing to share all this data, you make AI more possible. And also, when you run AI or provide service offered by AI, you need a lot of computing power. And because of cloud computing, you can access unlimited resources of computing power and storage on cloud. Last but not least is about all this powerful algorithm being shared or researched in institutions like here. So professor or research scientists are willing to share all this powerful algorithm and make AI become a phenomenon, if you like. And also the industry is saying that AI itself will generate a lot of business opportunity. For example, in the year 2020, by the way, this data may be a little bit old. When 2 years ago, we say 2020, 85% of enterprise will use AI. I think almost 100% enterprise are using AI this day. And also a lot of revenue, $1.2 trillion will generate in like a few years' time. So organizations, commercial, even government will be stupid not looking into this like, technology to help them transform government or transform business to achieve business goal. So let's move on to the real book. Okay, I break down this presentation into 3 parts. So first of all, instead of sharing you a lot of use case scenario, I'd like to share with you some of the Microsoft research project around this AI, and of course I will share you some of the cases, and also talk about how the industry take on this AI technology. And then I'll touch on the second session, responsible AI, and the last one is about the AI and future of work that many of you may be very, very concerned or interested about. Okay, Microsoft AI. When we talk about AI, a lot of people want to benchmark what they have done with their research when compared with human beings. If I can create a robot that can work as well as a human being, I would say satisfied. So the way we benchmark how good is your AI research project is compared with human priority. So since 2016, Microsoft been doing a lot of this like object recognitions, speech recognitions, reading comprehension, machine translation, and speech synthesis, natural language understanding, and the latest one is about document summary as well as vision captioning. What it means is like you can let a computer read a book and you can ask questions about this book, and AI can give you the accurate answer as good as human being. So we're breaking all this human priority records in the last decade or so. So there are 2 levels of AI, if you like. The first level is what we call a perceptive AI, which like an engine, the system can see something, understand something, and can present like a human, can speak like a human, and also can do like a language translation and so on. So this is the first level we call perceptive level. Another level is called cognitive level. It's a little bit deeper, a little bit more difficult to do, and the machine itself can find a reason with imperfect data and understand what the data means. After digesting a lot of information, you can understand what that information means and ask that the system to perform. And last but not least, a system itself have a cognitive capability and can interact with human beings or interact with machines themselves. So actually it's the 2 levels of, I would say, intelligence that we can build into artificial intelligence engine or system. How about speech recognition? So again, in 2017, we break the human error rate record. It's recognized something as good as a human by listening to a tape or voice recording or something. So this is a test on understand what we call a telephone operator recording that collect from many, many years of recording tapes. So listen to this tape.
That's about how old ours is.
What does she say? And anybody can guess what does she just said. That's not a machine, that's a human being. We take it from the operator, a conversation tape recording 10, 20 years ago. I give you some multiple choice answer. And the real one is,
that's about how old ours is.
this is what the tape recording is saying. But even a human may not be able to understand what it's saying. We are able to build AI engine which can understand that statement clearly. So that's how we break the record. Another breakthrough is speech synthesis, which a machine can actually speak like a human being. This is an algorithm that we have built to create that model. So I give you another test again. So A first, okay, listen to it.
As the name suggests, the original submarines came from Yugoslavia.
Okay, the second one.
This is easy enough if you have an unfinished attic directly above the bathroom.
So which one actually is done by AI? One is real human, another one is by machine. So the answer is A. Okay, for me, I think I'm very confused. I find both of them is the same person. So anyway, so it's really demonstrate how good AI engine can be produced and speak like a human being. The other example I want to show you is about what we call language understanding. The task performed by lots of researchers. So if you understand a statement, a book, a reading, you can answer the system question and you give an answer based on the book or the article or the statement that you read. Okay, so this is another test. Read this statement carefully. The City Council refused the demonstrators a permit because they advocate violence. The word they, T-H-E-Y, they, what does it refer to? So who's they? It's either be a City Council or the demonstrators. But the machine itself is not a human. It's very difficult to understand who they is. But if you can train a natural language model based on the context of this statement, they can identify they means the demonstrators. So I give you another example. The City Council refused the demonstrators a permit because they feared violence. So what's that they in that context refer to? The City Council or the demonstrators? Obviously, for this one is the City Council, right? So the AI engine itself not only can understand each word, the meaning of each word, you actually understand the entire statements and put context around who's speaking to who. So it's not easy to do, but with a lot of research and data input, we're able to do that. So this is another interesting example. By the way, it's not Hong Kong, it's like a Sydney Opera House. We talk about drone, and we can find a drone to check your building and see if there's any defect. But many of this is still need a human to do this like, control of that drone, right? But what we do here is train this drone. We talk about machine learning, but this is machine teaching. It's not learning. We actually try to teach this AI model, this like driverless like drone, if you like, by giving the drone a recording or image, okay, and also give him what we call depth image information in order to train that drone to understand the environment. Many times we can fail, we can crash, doesn't matter. After many times of training, the drone itself can fly off from anywhere, from Sydney Opera House and land back in Sydney Opera House without actually putting the drone in the real environment to do the training. So we can train the drones with some image and allow the drone to perform a specific task using a lot of interesting technology offered by Microsoft. As I mentioned, AI has been around for many, many years. So a lot of corporations, organizations from like government, retails, from manufacturing, from like automotive, been using AI for many, many different, I would say, scenarios, including like chatbot, machine learning, automation, document recognitions, sales service, and so on and so forth. So a lot of organizations already take advantage of the AI technology to embed into their day-to-day business process to help them improve their operation performance, optimize their operations, as well as transform their business using a new model supported by AI as well. Okay, that concludes my first session, and now I go to another session, talk about this what called responsible AI. You see a lot of AI support those with a disability to be more mobile. They have been offering a lot of promise and also give you a lot of positive impact to our society as a whole. However, there are also a lot of questions about AI. So questions such as how we actually can do and build an AI in a possible way which give a positive impact on our people as well as our society, how we can trust the AI which is safe and reliable, how can we respect privacy by giving away the data to train the model to serve our society and our company. Also, how can we ensure AI treat everyone in a fair way. So a lot of questions start to surface after AI technology being introduced in the last decade or so. And it's a very, very valid reason. There's one survey done by Capgemini, a consulting firm. They interviewed a lot of CXO in many countries. Almost every CXO saying they see some ethical issue with the use of AI within their organizations. So there are a lot of potential issues related to ethical issues. From Microsoft perspective, ethical AI issue has to be like a step-by-step progression. We published that book with this what we call principle or AI ethical principles that I will go into a little bit deeper later on. The advancement after that is how to we ourselves practice this principle. What are the governance models we put within our organization to ensure the AI application, AI system comply or align with this principle that we are promoting. After that, we actually make sure every organization, every country is aware of these issues, including protecting human rights as well as respecting privacy and so on and so forth by partnering with entire AI ecosystem, including government, NGO, as well as university, of course. And last but not least, we also share some of the insight into how we help the organization and even university students to learn how to actually tackle that issue with more in-depth training and so on. So this is what we call the progression of a responsible AI that we see happening in our society, in our market. From Microsoft point of view, and we published that book about 3 years ago, we talk about 6 guiding principles around fairness, reliability, privacy, security, inclusiveness, transparency, and accountability is the 2 pillars under this to support these 4 principles. So fairness is about when we understand how AI works, you need to train the AI with a lot of data and you input to train the engine, and then the engine will find the reasoning about this imperfect data and will recommend something. So this is an example. If the data itself is biased, the result will be biased. Just to give you some example on this face recognitions. When I look at this, face recognition is more accurate if it's a male, a white male, rather than people with color or female. So the percentage of accuracy progresses when it's moving more to your top left-hand side. And the reason for that is most of the image they use to train the AI model are white male. Okay, so we don't have enough data with female people with color to train the model. That's why the result will be less accurate. So it's really the fundamental issue is that the data we collect to train the engine is not complete. In order to tackle that issue, we have to understand how the bias gets introduced in the model itself. And then you have to also invite a diverse pool of talents, so that's important. The other thing is like when you develop analytic techniques, you may want to have some program, if you like, to help you detect this bias situation within your data. It's really difficult with a human to detect this bias within the big, huge data set. So how about using technologies to detect this bias situation within your data set? Last but not least, you really need to have a human review and domain expertise to help you tackle the model if it's biased before you actually publish it. Oh, this is my favorite example. Unfortunately, I used that many years ago, and that example is still valid. I just tried it before I came to this event. Sorry about this long Chinese-speaking audience, but if you type in this like 去係醫生 into Chinese, into any translation engine, I just use Microsoft one for this. You always get the translation, the result as he's a doctor. You never get the result getting she's a doctor. okay? But if you put in other translation engine, it gives you a very funny answer. You want to try that also. So if you put in He Wu Si, you always get the result, say she's a nurse, because majority of doctors are out there, the male, that's why I translate into he's the doctor. But it's really a good example of bias, and that's really my favorite example, and unfortunately still valid. The other principle is called about reliability. And when I gave you an example earlier, but it's going to be have a driverless car in the future. So when we train this driverless car, you want to make sure this model or this system itself is really extremely reliable and extremely safe. Because some of these situations still affect human life, right? You want to make sure human in the loop, and we have to make sure your data is really clean and good, and you have to monitor all the performance, and we have to manage that data as well. When you design this model, you want to make sure you can actually handle this unexpected circumstance, including this like a malicious attack and so on. By the way, I just went through a survey conducted by one of the university here. The survey question is very famous survey question. They say if you're sitting in a driverless car and the car have two options, either you run into a person or turn right and fall into the river, what will you do, right? So guess what's my answer? My answer is, I hope there's a red button I press and the car will stop, right? So if you rely on the machine, the AI to make the decision, will actually affect human life. You want to make sure human in the loop is somewhere in the process itself. So this is another classic example. Privacy and security, when you develop an AI engine, you need to collect a lot of data to train the model. When you collect the data, you want to make sure all this data you collect are compliant with privacy laws, including GDPR if you're in Europe or even around the world, or in Hong Kong, PCPO, right? You have to make sure when you collect the data, you have this consent and intention understand by the subject who let you use the data. Also provide the transparency about how and why you collect the data, and let the data subject control how they want to share the data or not. With this data you collect, you want to make sure nobody can access the data you collect on behalf of your organizations. So when this hybrid working environment, you see a lot of cyber attack to steal your data from organization. You want to make sure your system is well protected. Also, when you train the engine with even with your subject's consents, you want to make sure you de-identify the person information before put in the training engine. So it's a lot of I would say technique or technology available in the market today to help you de-identify the data you collect before you actually put into the training model. The other area is about inclusive. We see when AI is so powerful, you actually can allow a lot of opportunities there to support people with like 1 billion people with disability around the world. So we see a huge opportunity there. When people develop AI engine, you want to make sure this sector of disability is also included in your AI application as well. How you use AI technology to support people with dyslexia, especially when they are childhood, to allow them to read, understand, to participate in schools. This immersive reader application, if you like, we first introduced in Microsoft OneNote Classroom book many years ago to allow school to use that as a tool to enable people to use to read, understand, and so on and so forth. But eventually, you put that technology into almost every Microsoft 365 products. So today you can enjoy the similar I would say capability from your Word, Excel, and PowerPoint and so on. This amazing technology that we built into this classroom book tools many years ago allow children or students with dyslexia be able to read better and go back to school. The other principle about transparency, you start seeing a lot of people question why the AI make that decision, because of what reason. So as a user of AI engine, you have the right to understand why AI makes such decision, especially when this decision are affecting some sort of like rights of human or any other reason as well. When you build an AI engine, you want to make sure the AI model itself is transparent enough, and we want to make sure the model itself is explainable. Okay, so when people challenge the decision you're going to make, you have to be able to explain it, especially those involved in like a legal matter as well. So this is another principle we recommend. Last but not least, about accountability. So a lot of questions, people say, who's ultimately responsible for the AI decision that is going to make? If something goes wrong with the robot, if a robot kills somebody, should we put the robot to court, or should we put a software developer, or should we put this like organization who produced this robot to court? So this is a really common question. Our recommendation is that people must be accountable for the system, for the AI's operation. However, that's not common norms in the industry. So we advocate a common norm about who's responsible, how the system can build in accountability manner as well. In order to make this principle word, it's not just the technology itself. It's not always also not just a book. We cannot just write a book and put this 6 principles in the book and everybody follow. I think first of all, you have to make sure it's an internal, external governance infrastructure set up to practice this model. Another area is about external engagement. We want to work with the entire partner ecosystem, including governments, universities, researchers, as well as corporations, to promote this how the principle should be worked and so on. Around the world, organizations, NGO are aware of this issue. In the last several years, almost every major country around the world have already published what we call AI policy. The government of Hong Kong and some government organizations will also publishing such policy as well. So you'll see a lot of this policy being published in Hong Kong in near futures. As a Microsoft point of view, as I mentioned, when we practice AI within our product, our solution, and our offer, we also want to share our experience with external audience as well. So this is actually a website. We give you a lot of resources to help build this governance model, what's the best practice of developing AI model, and what sort of technology or tools available in the market to help you, for example, de-bias the data you collect, how you explain the AI model that you're building, and how to protect the data. There are a lot of technology components. We also put it in the open source ecosystem as well, so anybody can use these resources to build AI model in a responsible way. Okay, so let me move on to the last section of my sharing. It's about AI skills. How does the future world and future skill are required in our industry to support the AI development in our society and or your organization? I think that's a very, very important topic I'd like to share. So a lot of data, some of them are quite new and some of them are quite outdated. When consulting firm or Microsoft, when you interview, for example, employers, some employers saying the new graduate from university are not prepared for today's workforce. So they do not understand what the latest, greatest technology is. They are still learning something which is outdated. So many of them need to retrain. And also 74% of the current employees that those are working in organizations are saying that they need to retrain for the job for the future. And so on and so forth. So a lot of data is being shown this unmatch between the economy as well as the skill that our workers around the world are having. So reskilling or upskilling is become a big topic, especially with AI or this latest technology being introduced in the market. And also this one survey done by McKinsey say this is big shift in this demand for the skills in next 10 years. So before, I think when we hire people, we want to make sure they have a lot of basic cognitive skill. The percent of the basic cognitive skill, the physical and manual skill will be decreasing. And what is picking up is that almost every organization, every person will require technical skill, technological skill, as well as social emotional skill. I think that's basically because of the hybrid learning. A lot of people may need a lot of emotional skill in order to work, perform to the highest standard. So the skills demand is shifting from real manual basic cognitive to high cognitive to emotional, social skill, technological skill. What Microsoft been doing to help this area, so when I catch you come here, I talk to several colleagues here, we offer a lot of we call online training program. And primarily all this online learning program are free of charge. So anybody can go to a Microsoft learning platform, we call Microsoft Learn. And on this learning platform, a lot of different paths are based on your role, what you do. If you're like a programmer or you're a data scientist, if you are just a business analyst, or even if you're a student, we give you a path. You can follow this learning path and pick up the new skill, the technical skill or digital skill you need to perform your work in the futures. So I encourage everybody to visit these tools. So talk about AI. This is our latest introduction. We call this AI 900 Azure AI Fundamental Training course. Another free learning resources, including 6 modules. And I think some of you expect today we're going to learn a lot of technology about AI, what machine learning, what computer vision means, how to write a Python program. Sorry I disappoint you, but you're really keen to learn about this, feel free to go to this Microsoft Learn platform to pick up AI 900 Azure AI Fundamental Training path. So for this, I remember take about 10 hours of your time, maybe a bit more. You can equip yourself with basic knowledge of AI. So we can move forward to learn more in-depth AI technology through this platform as well. Talking about learning, we extend this learning program not just to university students or master class students. We actually offer to high school and primary school students. I'd like to share with you 2 projects that we work with the largest IT teaching association in Hong Kong. One we work with ACE. We work with them to encourage school students to learn this AI 900 module I just shared with you. We also give them some voucher so students, after learning all the skills online, they can go to take the exam and get the certificate. I understand many students already take advantage of this and become an expert. Another program we work with ATO is not just learning AI technology, but we want to encourage the student to come up with some project can apply AI for good. Good means what? It means like how you apply AI to tackle some of the, I would say, disability issue we see around the disability community, or tackle some environmental issues, or so on and so forth. So students come up with several really interesting projects, and we give them prize to encourage them to apply AI to tackle some of the issues around our society. So this is that interesting project I like to share. So in Microsoft, we have a competition for students we call Immersion Cup. One for university students and one for high school or even primary school students. We call Immersion Cup Junior. So the Immersion Cup Junior this year, we have over 2,300 entrants. Some interest from Hong Kong, of course, and this school got top 10 award, okay, top 10 prize among 2,300 schools around the world. Actually, I saw the teaser of their project. It's about Chinese medicine, how a Chinese medicine doctor use AI to provide his consultation for patients using AI technique. So very interesting project, and congratulations again. The final topic I want to touch on is AI again. And I just share with you this AI ethical issue. A lot of organizations, when they try to implement AI system, they hit not just ethical issue, but also technical issue, could be a cultural issue. So a lot of failure. I would say 10 to 20% of AI project may fail because organizations do not have an AI strategy within the organization. Even they have a strategy, they may not have a culture within their organization to have a what called an ethical culture to help organization to take advantage of their technology. The third one is about responsibility AI. It is more on the ethical thing. And last part is about technology. So we offer a program, and we work with an Insen Business School to put together some contents we call AI Business School. So that is targeting like MBA students, a senior executive, or business management people to understand what AI is, how to build a strategy, how to create a culture within organizations, how to tackle some of the ethical issues. This data may be a little bit outdated, but anyway, there's over 250,000 visitors and around 182 countries participate and learn from this AI Business School. By the way, AI Business School also free of charge. It's a QR code on your right. Scan it and take this course. We break it down in different industries as well. Today we have 6 industry scenarios. So you pick this industry scenario around AI, and it teach you, guide you how to define AI strategy, how to discover and build the AI culture with organizations, how to guide your responsible AI development with your organization. And last but not least is about how to actually introduce AI technology for business leader. And this is also outdated if we put on a couple of new modules within this AI business school. So just go to this QR code, you can add that. Okay, before I wrap up my session, I just want to give you one exercise. What sort of jobs do you think will disappear, will be replaced by a computer from AI, from robots? So this is a website I use to do it. A lot of people talk about interpreters, about translators. The percentage of interpreters and translators will be replaced by a robot is 38%. Okay, very high. So if you want to become a translator, think twice. How about teachers, instructors, professor? Would their job be replaced by a robot or AI? The answer is 1%. So you're pretty safe. So anyway, it's really fun to look at how AI will affect our job in the future and what you need to do to equip yourself with a digital skill to tackle what we need. So to conclude, I let you bring up a statement from this book again. If you haven't downloaded it, scan that code again. AI is really about, ultimately the question is not only what computer can do, it's what computers should do. This is one of the statements from the final chapter of the book. I just wrap up with our mission statement. So our Microsoft mission is empower every person and every organization on the planet to achieve more with Microsoft technologies. So that's it for my sharing. Thank you.